The crash echoed through the conference hall like a gunshot. 50,000 people were watching the live stream when the lighting rig hit the floor. David Harrison didn't even flinch. He just stopped mid-sentence, his jaw tightening as he turned toward the source of the noise. An elderly janitor stood frozen near the fallen equipment, his weathered hands trembling. "Someone want to explain this?" David's voice cut through the silence like ice. The old man shuffled forward, his maintenance uniform hanging loose on his thin frame. "I'm sorry, sir. I was just trying to what? Sabotage my shareholder meeting?" David stepped down from the stage and the camera followed him. "What's your name?" "Robert, sir. Robert Hayes." "It was an accident. Robert." David smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Come up here, Robert. I want everyone to see you." Robert climbed onto the stage, his legs unsteady. The live stream chat exploded with comments. David circled him slowly, like a predator. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what I've been talking about. Dead weight. People who've stopped trying, who just collect paychecks while bringing nothing to the table." David turned to Robert. "How long have you worked here?" 15 years, sir." 15 years of mediocrity." David looked directly into the camera. "This is the problem with American business. We carry people instead of demanding excellence. Well, not anymore." He turned back to Robert. "You're fired. Security will escort you out." Robert's face went pale, but he just nodded. "I understand, sir. I'm sorry for the disruption." As Robert walked off the stage, something flickered across his face. Not anger, not even sadness. Something else. Something that looked almost like relief. The stock price jumped 3 points. David continued his presentation to thunderous applause, never noticing the old janitor pause at the exit and look back one last time. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to take a turn you won't see coming. 3 days later, Jessica Thompson stood in David's outer office, staring at a personnel file that made no sense. As David's executive assistant, she'd processed hundreds of termination packets. But Robert Hayes' file was different. No emergency contact, no previous employment history, no references, nothing before 15 years ago when he'd started at TechVantage as a night janitor. She shouldn't care. It wasn't her job to care. But something about the way that old man had accepted his humiliation gnawed at her. Jessica went to the basement storage area where the terminated employees' lockers were kept. Robert's locker was already tagged for disposal. She opened it. Inside was a photograph. Young David Harrison, maybe 17, in a graduation gown, grinning at the camera with hope in his eyes. Behind the photo were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to David, all unsent. Jessica's hands shook as she read, "Dear David, you won the science fair. I saw it in the school newsletter. I stayed in the back of the auditorium. You were brilliant. You've always been brilliant. I wanted to run up and hug you, but that wouldn't be fair to you. You deserve better than a father who failed. Love, Dad." Jessica dropped the letter. Another one. "Dear David, I read about your scholarship to MIT. I've been saving every penny from my night shifts. Your aunt doesn't know, but I've been sending money for your expenses. She thinks it's from some charity fund. Let her think that. You need this opportunity. You need to fly, love, Dad." And another. "Dear David, I got a job at your company. I know I shouldn't have, but I just wanted to be near you, to see you succeed. You walk right past me in the hallway sometimes. You don't recognize me. That's good. That's how it should be. You're building an empire, son. Don't let an old ghost drag you down, love, Dad." Jessica's phone rang. It was David. "I need the Henderson contracts in 5 minutes." "Yes, sir." Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. She had to tell him. She had to. But first, she had to find Robert. The address on file led to a rundown apartment building in the industrial district. Jessica climbed 3 flights of stairs and knocked on door 3C. No answer. She knocked again. The door opened a crack. Robert's eyes widened when he saw her. "Please," he whispered. "Please don't tell him." "Mr. Hayes, come in, quickly." The apartment was tiny, clean but sparse. On a small table sat a bottle of prescription pills. Jessica glanced at the label. "Palliative care, lung cancer, stage 4. "You're sick." Robert sat down heavily. 6 months, maybe less. The insurance from the job was helping with the pain medication. But, he shrugged. "Why didn't you tell him? Why didn't you ever tell David you're his father?" Robert's laugh was bitter. Tell him what? That I'm the man who gave him up? That I let his aunt raise him because I was too poor, too uneducated, too broken after his mother died? He shook his head. David built himself into something magnificent. He tells people he's self-made, that he came from nothing and clawed his way to the top. That story inspires people. That story gives him power. But it's a lie. Is it? Robert met her eyes. I gave him up. His aunt had money. She gave him opportunities. He thinks I abandoned him, and maybe I did, but he turned that anger into fuel. He became unstoppable. Robert's voice cracked. I wasn't going to take that away from him by showing up as the pathetic father he despises. He doesn't know you're his father at all. Exactly. Robert stood up, walked to the window. I got the job at Tech Vantage 15 years ago. I just wanted to see him, to be in the same building. Sometimes I'd clean his office at night and see the awards on his wall, the photos of him with presidents and billionaires, and I'd think at least I did one thing right. I stayed away and let him become great. Jessica felt tears burning her eyes. Mr. Hayes, he fired you on camera. He humiliated you in front of millions of people. I know. Robert turned back to her, and his smile was genuine, and he looked so powerful doing it, so strong. That's my boy. That's insane. That's love. Robert walked over, put his hand on her shoulder. Please, I'm asking you, let me die knowing my son conquered the world. Don't burden him with a dying old man's guilt. Jessica left the apartment with the letters clutched to her chest, her mind at war with itself. Drop a comment below. Would you tell David the truth or honor Robert's wish? Let me know what you do. But Jessica couldn't let it go. The next morning, she walked into David's office and placed the shoebox on his desk. What's this? Something you need to see. David opened it. His face went blank as he saw the photograph. Where did you get this? From Robert Hayes' locker. The janitor I fired? David picked up the photo, stared at it. This is me. My high school graduation. How did he? Read the letters, David. She watched his face change as he read. Confusion, disbelief, shock, and then something else. Something that looked like his entire world cracking apart. This can't be real. Jessica placed a stack of canceled checks on the desk. These are from 20 years ago, made out to your aunt, all signed by Robert Hayes. He sent money for your education while working 3 jobs. David's hands were shaking. My aunt told me the money came from a scholarship fund. She said, his voice broke. She said my father was dead. She probably thought it was easier. Robert asked her to tell you that. The janitor. David's voice was hollow. The man I called dead weighed on camera. The man I fired in front of 50,000 people. He looked up at Jessica, and for the first time since she'd known him, David Harrison looked vulnerable. The man I humiliated was my father? He had stage 4 lung cancer. 6 months to live, maybe less. He lost his insurance when you fired him. David stumbled backward, collapsed into his chair. Oh God, what have I become? He grabbed his phone, dialed. No answer. Tried again. Disconnected number. Where is he? Jessica gave him the address. David drove like a madman through the city. His mind was spinning, memories flooding back. The man in the back row of his Little League games. The stranger at his college graduation. The janitor he'd passed in the hallways 100 times without really seeing. Always watching. Always there. Always silent. The apartment building looked worse in daylight. David took the stairs 3 at a time, pounded on the door. No answer. He pounded again. Robert, open the door. A neighbor poked her head out. He ain't there. Saw them take him to County General this morning. Collapsed in the hallway. David ran. County General's emergency room was chaos. David pushed through to the front desk. Robert Hayes. Where is he? Are you family? I'm his son. The nurse's expression softened. Room 247. But sir, he's... David was already running. Room 247 was at the end of the corridor. David burst through the door and stopped. Robert was in the bed, oxygen tubes in his nose, looking smaller and frailer than seemed possible. His eyes opened when David entered. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Robert smiled. Hello, son. David's legs gave out. He fell into the chair beside the bed, tears streaming down his face. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ever tell me who you were? Because you were ashamed of where you came from, and you turned that shame into fire. Robert reached out with a trembling hand, touched David's face. You became everything I never could be. I became a monster. David grabbed his father's hand. I fired you. I humiliated you. I called you dead weight in front of the whole world. You were doing your job. My job? David's voice rose. My job was to be your son. My job was to take care of you. Instead, he couldn't finish. The sobs were choking him. Robert squeezed his hand with surprising strength. Listen to me. I gave you up because I loved you. Your mother died and I was drowning. Your aunt had money, stability, everything I couldn't give you. I thought I was doing the right thing. You sent money. You worked 3 jobs. You never abandoned me. But you thought I did. And you became angry. And that anger made you hungry, made you fight harder than anyone else. Robert's eyes glistened. I watched you build an empire, David. I watched you become someone who matters, someone who changes the world. That was worth every sacrifice. I don't want the empire, David shouted. I want my father. I want the 15 years I walked past you without knowing. I want, his voice cracked. I want time. Robert's smile was sad. That's the one thing I can't give you, son. How long? The doctors say weeks, maybe days. No, David stood up. No, I'll get you the best treatment, the best doctors. David. Robert's voice was firm. I'm ready. I gotta see you one more time. I gotta hear you call me father. That's more than I deserved. You deserved everything. David collapsed back into the chair. And I gave you nothing but cruelty. They sat in silence, father and son, strangers and family all at once. Finally, Robert spoke. Tell me about your empire. Tell me what you built. And David did. He talked for hours about the company, the innovations, the successes, but also about the loneliness, the anger that drove him, the emptiness that no amount of money could fill. I built it all on a lie, David whispered. I told everyone I was self-made, that I came from nothing and conquered everything through pure will. That wasn't entirely a lie. Yes, it was. I came from you, from your sacrifice, from your love. David looked at his father. I need to make this right. You don't need to do anything. Yes, I do. David's voice was steady now. I need to tell the truth. 1 month later, David stood on the same stage where he'd humiliated his father. The live stream had twice as many viewers this time. Everyone wanted to see what the ruthless CEO would do next. In the front row sat Robert Hayes, looking healthier. David had paid for experimental treatment. It had bought them time. Not much, but enough. David looked directly into the camera. 4 weeks ago, I stood here and fired a man on live television. I called him dead weight. I used him as an example of everything wrong with American workers. David paused. I want to introduce you to that man. Robert stood up slowly. This is Robert Hayes, and I need to tell you the truth about him. David's voice was strong, clear. Robert Hayes is my father. For 15 years, he worked in this building as a janitor while I built my empire 3 floors above him. I never knew. He never told me. The chat exploded. David ignored it. I told you all I was self-made, that I came from nothing. That was a lie. I came from him, from a man who worked 3 jobs to send money for my education, from a man who gave me up because he thought I deserved better, from a man who loved me enough to stay silent while I succeeded. David looked at his father, and when I finally saw him, I didn't recognize him. I saw a janitor, an inconvenience, dead weight. His voice cracked. I saw everything except what mattered. He turned back to the camera. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here to announce changes. TechVantage will implement a living wage for all employees, starting with our janitorial staff. We're establishing a scholarship fund for the children of our service workers. And we're launching a foundation dedicated to honoring the invisible people who make companies like ours possible. David stepped away from the podium, walked to his father, and embraced him. This is the man who made me, and I spent years too blind to see it. The live stream chat was moving too fast to read, but David didn't care about the comments anymore. He only cared about the old man in his arms, who whispered, I'm proud of you, son. Robert Hayes died 3 months later, surrounded by the family he thought he'd lost forever. In those final months, David learned everything about the father he'd never known, the stories, the dreams, the regrets. And David learned something else. Success measured in stock prices means nothing compared to success measured in love. Before you go, hit that like button if this was a beautiful story. Subscribe for more stories that'll make you think and feel. Because sometimes the most important people in our lives are the ones we walk past every single day without really seeing. Sometimes the people who build us are invisible until it's almost too late. Don't let it be too late.